Everyone wants to pay less taxes, especially in Europe, where the taxman doesn't just take a slice, they take a bakery. I often hear over and over again, I'll pay less tax, but I'm gonna stay in my country. I'm gonna open a company in Dubai, I'm gonna open the company in Estonia, but I'm gonna stay in France. No, you won't. That's not how it works. Today, I'm going to go over some of the most famous tax programs out there that you can go for if you are serious about lowering your tax bill. It's Irena here from Millionaire Migrant. Here we create a bespoke blueprint for you and only you that is for your situation and your goals. If you want to become a client or if you just want to chat with us, no strings attached, you can do it through scanning this QR code. Now let's get to business. The most dangerous mindset that I can't tell you how many times I've talked with clients like this is, you know what, I'm going to stay in Portugal, Canada, UK, everywhere, but I'm going to open a company in the BVI where it's zero corporate tax and I will lower down my tax bill like that, right? So I can just use my corporate card everywhere I go. That's not how it works. If you want to lower your taxes, number one condition is that you have to move. Doesn't mean that you have to move into that specific country or you live nomadically, but you have to move. Remember that. There is no way of lowering your tax bill if you stay in the high tax country. There are some things that you can do, right? Apply for this deduction and that deduction. But if you want to lower it down completely, except for US citizens, then in that case, you have to move. Now, often when I explain this to them, they're like, well, they wouldn't know. You know that meme that says, how would they know? They know. They always know. There are things in place right now, like the CRS, even the crypto reporting and others, that technically inform your country of tax residency. Where are you and where are you located and where should you pay tax? There is the control foreign corporation rules, there is the permanent establishment rules. Everything now is accessible to them, which I don't agree with. It's pretty much invasion of my privacy for you to know everything about me, but that's the way it works. So in that case, again, remember that they know. And you can't hide from the tax authorities. We'll do a separate video about that with Jeremy, where, we will talk about whether it's possible to hide a part of your income from the tax office, which, spoiler alert, you can't. But we will talk now about some of the options on, what you can do and where you can go to lower down your tax bill. Now, there are multiple ways on how you can lower down your tax bill. You can move to a zero tax country, you can move to a territorial tax country, or you can apply for the tax programs. Today, we're talking about tax programs only. We'll do a separate video talking about territorial or zero tax, but the tax programs are the ones that right now are mostly in Europe and that a lot of people go for. Now, some of those programs require you to actually relocate there and to live there. Some programs don't ask you to live there at all, and those are my favorite ones. And again, at Millionaire Migrant, we don't just sell you the lifestyle, we live that lifestyle. I live nomadically, I travel around constantly, and I make sure that, again, my taxes are as low as they can to save on the taxes, to lower down my tax bill, to have residency in multiple jurisdictions and others. So again, we live the lifestyle. Jeremy himself holds more than 5 passports, has more than 5 residency permits, has multiple bank accounts. That's what we do here at Millionaire Migrant. We help you to become a global citizen and to step away from the borders of your country which are limiting you, whether politically, whether, tax-wise, and others. Now, again, you have the tax programs where, they require you to actually move there, but there are the ones that don't ask you to move there. Let's discuss firstly the ones where you have to move there. You have a couple of programs out there. You have Italy, you have Greece, you have Switzerland, you have Spain, you have Cyprus. But those are all the programs that ask you to live there. Italy, we'll just go through it quickly because, again, these are very much for ultra high net worth individuals. Italy has a program which is, considered kind of a lump sum program where you pay the flat tax of 200,000 euros for anything that you earn. So any foreign income is not counted. Italian sourced income is sometimes counted. But anyways, it's a lot. 200,000 euros is a lot. The only thing I can think of is the Americans who probably paid more than that, or the Canadians, that paid 300,000 per year in taxes. So this may be beneficial for them. But for, people like probably you or, others, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The lump sum amount was actually before 100,000, but they increased it to 200,000. Now we're talking about Greece. Greece still has it at 100,000 euros. So you pay 100,000 euros, everything that's outside of Greece, they don't care about. Everything that you make inside Greece is counted. Now, again, it's still a lot. 100,000 is a lot, and it's not accessible to everyone, right? What I like, the program that I like, is actually Spain. If you qualify for their so-called Beckham Law, you can save on taxes. How? But technically paying 24% flat tax for your Spanish-sourced income. Any kind of foreign income is not counted. But you have to move to Spain. By the way, same as for Italy and Greece, you have to move to Spain and you have to work in Spain. So whether by being a digital nomad or by actually, having your company, having a business there, and so on and so forth. So it's for a specific kind of people, right? Portuguese NHR was one of the best ones out there. It got canceled. I mean, it got reframed. That's no longer so appealing. But they're talking about reintroducing the old NHR scheme. So let's see what will happen. If that happens, it would be the best news ever. The other program that I really like is Cyprus non-dom program. So Cyprus non-dom program technically gives you a tax residency after living there for 60 days. You have to rent or purchase an apartment, and you have to have a business there or to pretty much have a job there. But it's pretty good. It's valid for 17 years, right? So after 17 years, you either become a normal tax resident in Cyprus or you move somewhere else. But it's one of the longest ones out there with Switzerland, which I will come to in a minute. But technically, what non-dom means is that it works similar as the territorial tax system. So technically, everything that's within Cyprus is taxed. Everything that's outside of Cyprus is not taxed, which is pretty good. Now, Switzerland. Switzerland has their own lump sum program. And with Switzerland, it's a very expensive place to live in, right? And only certain cantons allow this lump sum option. So what does that mean? There is no set amount for Switzerland that you will pay in taxes. So you pretty much agree on your circumstances on your family side, on your income, and so on and so forth. The approximate amount that you'll pay comes from 100,000 to 500,000 Swiss francs. But again, depends on the canton where you live in. And not all cantons, again, support this lump sum option. Now, let's move to my favorite one, which is the country where you don't have to move to, but you can get their tax residency. So with the previous programs, like we said, you have to physically relocate there to lower down your tax bill, right? So you have to also get a residency permit. In certain cases, they give you a residency permit together with the tax status, like Switzerland. But in other countries, you have to apply pretty much for residency permit and then for the tax status as well. Now, in these countries, again, that's my favorite one. And I just talked to the client yesterday who, decided to go ahead with this program because, again, I find it very appealing. That's Maltese program. Everybody says, well, wasn't a Maltese program got canceled? Maltese citizenship program got canceled. But the residency program, MPRP, and the tax residency program, GRP, are very much still in place. With Maltese tax program, you have GRP and you have TRP. TRP is for the European citizens, and it's a bit more appealing, right? Because the fees are lower. And GRP are for pretty much everyone else. So what does this mean? This means that you technically go to Malta, you either rent or purchase a property. If you rent out a property, you're looking at approximately like now 9,000 euros per year that you need to spend on rent. And you simply pay Maltese government 15,000 euros on a yearly basis on taxes. And everything else that's outside of Malta, again, they don't care about. Anything that's inside of Malta or that you remit to Malta, you pay tax on. And that's 15% on the first $100,000 euros that you transfer to Malta. Obviously, Malta doesn't ask you to live there. So Maltese tax residency certificate or tax ID, technically, your tax status remains there, and their only requirement is that you don't spend more than 183 days in any other country outside of Malta. The moment that you do, your tax status gets canceled. This option is the best ones for nomads. So for people who are traveling around and technically they need to have a tax residency in place so that their home country doesn't tax them. And that's always the case. If you're coming from the high tax country, your main tie to the country is citizenship and family. If you have that country's citizenship, they will always claim the tax status for you because you're no longer a tax resident everywhere else. So you have to pay tax somewhere. You will open a bank account and they will ask you for the tax ID. What are you going to do if you don't have one? You need to have your tax residency home. And what a lot of people as well do is that they go ahead and they, for example, live in, Portugal, let's say, not under the NHR, but live in Portugal as Portuguese citizens and tax residents and residents, but they get the tax certificate from Paraguay, and they technically claim that Paraguay is their tax home. Again, that's not how it works. Tax residency is determined on two factors: closer connection ties and physical presence. If you stay more than 6 months in a country, you're a tax resident. If you have closer connection to Portugal than Paraguay, you're a tax resident and you have to disclose everything to Paraguay. Now, back to the topic. Apart from Malta, which is again my favorite one, the other two that technically don't ask you to live there are Gibraltar and Georgia. Now, if we're talking about Gibraltar, Gibraltar is a bit more expensive. So in Gibraltar, the only requirement for you to become a tax resident of Gibraltar is to have a net worth of at least 2 million British pounds. If you can prove that, and if you rent a property in Gibraltar, there is no minimum, but it has to be pre-approved by the government that they say, yep, you can rent out this place. And again, that it's suitable for family members that you're bringing along with you, you can apply for their tax status called Category 2. If you apply for that, not the minimum, but the approximate tax that you're going to pay is from 37,000 British pounds to 45,000, again, British pounds. So that's like the range that you're going to pay, minimum being 37,000. So again, it's a bit more pricey, but the program is designed for ultra high net worth individuals who are already paying a lot more in taxes. Now, moving on to the third program, which is Georgia. If you ask me, Georgia previously, before they technically changed the rules a bit, Georgia was one of the most appealing ones, but it became very expensive. In order to apply for Georgia, you have to have a net worth of at least 1.1 million, approximately US dollars. But outside of that, at least 500,000 US dollars has to be in Georgia. So meaning that you have to either rent a property, purchase a property, or to open a business or anything else. So it has to be in Georgia. And only then you have a tax status in Georgia. It's very expensive. Again, if you ask me, you have Malta for 15,000 and 9,000 euros for property, So there are cheaper options out there, but it's still a good option. And again, it's designed for high net worth individuals. So once again, these three, Malta, Gibraltar, and Georgia, are the ones that don't ask you to live there. Malta doesn't ask you anything, but I always recommend to go and visit from time to time. Spend 2 weeks in Malta, during summer. It's beautiful. It's an island, but still, it's nice. Gibraltar doesn't ask you to step a foot there in Gibraltar if you don't want to, but you will still be able to keep the tax residency status, and you can travel around, just pay that tax, and again, they don't care about anything else. Obviously, these options, like, Malta, Gibraltar, Georgia, they are not very suitable for families, because if you're a family, you can't just travel around, not spend more than 6 months in any other place, Like, you have an example of Jeremy. Jeremy has kids. Jeremy has a wife. He can't live that lifestyle. I can for the next couple of years, but, people who have family, this is not suitable for them. So in order for them to lower down their tax bill, they either go for Italy, Greece, and others where they can actually relocate to, or same old Dubai, which remains tax-free on a personal level, and then technically, again, you reduced your tax bill. So I just yesterday actually had a call with a client of ours who was concerned about the Maltese tax program, because obviously a lot of things are changing. Maltese Citizenship Investment Program is getting cancelled. Italy changes the rules for citizenship by descent. Italy is increasing the tax program from 100,000 to 200,000 euros. Portugal changing the time for citizenship. CBI, Citizenship Investment, Caribbean Citizenship Investment, are increasing the investment. There are a lot of changes in this world. They'll run us out of work. I'm kidding, of course. There will always be ways for you to relocate, but it comes for a certain price. So he was concerned about the rules changing. And he was like, okay, well, how do I know that the rules for the Maltese tax program will not change? I'm going to tell you what I told him. Citizenship investment programs, or even time for citizenship in those countries, those programs are changing because they are under the influence of Europe and under Trump. Well, I'm not going to say under Trump, I'm going to say under the US. But anyways, they are influenced. People want to cancel the citizenship investment program in Malta because you are giving the European passport to everyone. What does that mean? Not everyone, but what does that mean? That means that with the European passport, you can go and live anywhere in Europe. And we all know that Europe is struggling with a lot with the immigrants. So with that in mind, those programs are influenced by outside of the governments outside of that country. Tax programs are influenced within the territories on those countries. Europe doesn't have anything to do with it. If you're going to have the tax program in place to pay 15,000 euros on a yearly basis, that's within Malta. And If you look at those countries, Gibraltar is a very small country. Malta is an island. They can't have, the population of people that Germany can have, or France, or anything like that, which is a good thing because they really struggle right now with safety and everything. But anyways, they need to offer you a way to be an expat, but for them to get some money. That's why those programs are in place, and that's why I don't think they will change. And even if they change, they usually give you, some grace period. Or it's the same with Portuguese NHR. If you applied, you're good for the next 10 years. If you didn't apply, you apply per the new rules, again, which are not at all good as the old NHR. These are not hacks. These are legal frameworks created by the governments to attract people like you. Now, if you're serious about, reducing your tax bill, don't think just like a part-time tax dodger and start thinking like a global citizen. We can educate you and we can help you to get where you want and to accomplish your goals. Again, whether that is by reducing your tax, getting the second citizenship, getting the second residency, relocating you and your whole family, even finding a school for your kids. That's what we're here for. We have as well the real estate team that is on the side that can help you, rent a property or purchase a property, whether it's for your own use or as an investment. Get in touch with us, and you can do it by just scanning this QR code. No strings attached. Let's see if we're a good fit together. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for your time and for watching the video, and I'll see you soon.